Coming up on the W Show, we look ahead to a massive weekend of semi-finals footy. Can the Swans write another chapter in this fairy tale season? Plus, just how did the Roos beat the reigning premier? We break it down. Essendon co-captain Bonnie Toogood joins us on the panel. You're watching the W Show, thanks to Nat. Great to have your company on the W Show. Nat Edwards in the host chair today, and with me each and every week is award-winning journalist Sarah Black. Sarah, week one of the finals, it certainly delivered.
It certainly did. You took the words right out of my mouth, Nat. I don't know what to say next. No, it was great. Arguably 3 of the 4 matches were upset, so I can't wait to see what this week has to hold.
Well, Essendon co-captain in Bonnie Toogood joins us. She is a friendly face on the W Show. It's great to have you in, Bon.
It's good to be back, as always.
Now, we will touch on your Bombers in just a moment, and of course the rest of the final series. But the biggest news of the week is that the Western Bulldogs are looking for a new AFLW coach after the news on Wednesday that Nathan Burke has been sacked after a 1-win season. Sarah, I don't think any of us were surprised given some of his comments during the season. It seems like he just lost the players.
It certainly felt like things were starting to unravel at the Bulldogs. Of course, late last year he signed a 2-year contract for both the 2023 and 24 seasons. He'll depart with 1 year remaining on that contract. It was much fanfare moving to a full-time position, but it just hasn't worked out for the Dogs. I was at a few of those press conferences, and you were taken aback a little bit by how blunt he was in his assessment of his playing group, and I think in the end it just became a bit untenable.
We can't doubt, of course, the contribution he has made to women's football, so we should congratulate him for that. But unfortunately, he parts ways with the Western Bulldogs. This was a statement that they released on Wednesday afternoon, and he said, I thank the Western Bulldogs for allowing me to live my purpose of making a difference in other people's lives. If I did that, then I walk away content. I also want to thank the people of the West for embracing me as part of your club. I hope success is just around the corner for you. On that, Bonnie, and a new voice, because you have been through change in your career, you've had new voices as coaches. What kind of impact can a new voice from a new coach have on a playing group?
Sometimes change can be scary, but the impact of having a new voice can be quite significant. And for me personally, moving to Essendon and having Natalie Wood as my head coach, it's like you're able to engage in different conversations and get different perspectives. We play a game that is overcomplicated, but it is quite a simple game. However, people have their opinions and perspectives on how it should be played, and just getting different ideas and perspectives can really free up players.
So, Sarah, we have a situation now where there are 3 vacancies when it comes to the top job at AFLW clubs: Collingwood, the Western Bulldogs and West Coast looking for new coaches as it stands at the moment. Who are some of the contenders? Because my mind springs to a former assistant of yours, Bonnie, in Melissa Hickey, who I think is doing a terrific job and getting some great experience as head coach of the Geelong Falcons. But who else is on that list?
It will be interesting to see what approach clubs take, because all 3 teams are in very different positions as well. So you've got to think about the right coach for where that club is at that point in time. So, you know, I'd be surprised if clubs don't ask after Jane Lange and see where she's at. She's a former senior assistant at Melbourne who's taken a step back from footy this year. She's returned to teaching. So she's one who I'd look towards. Mel Hickey, like you said. Trent Cooper and Daniel Harford, wouldn't rule them out as former AFLW coaches keen to get back into the game after a year off. Lauren Moorcroft, highly rated at Eastern Rangers boys, and has also played.
Boy said at their best and fairest that she was the best coach they'd ever had, which is a pretty big thing from teenage boys.
Definitely. She's also a former dog herself. And Chloe McMillan's name's been around for a little while. And speaking of the Pies, Jess Berger's name was raised, which is interesting. She's the head of footy there at Collingwood and has coached community footy. But I understand that she's actually on the Collingwood selection panel for that job. So I'd be surprised if she ended up as senior coach when you're on the selection panel.
All right, well, let's move on to what we're all here to talk about, and that is finals footy. And this is how the finals are shaping up right now. 2 huge huge do-or-die semi-finals, Adelaide and Sydney on Saturday night, followed by Melbourne and Geelong on Sunday afternoon. And when it comes to hosting rights for the AFLW Grand Final, Sarah, there was a little bit of confusion earlier this week in terms of whether the seeding was based on the home and away season and the seedings after that, or whether it was based on what happened during the finals. The AFL has clarified. Just take me through how North Melbourne now is the number 1 seed.
Yeah, so there's a few factors at play here. This is the first time we've had the top-ranked qualifying final teams lose. So that's thrown everything on its head a little bit. And for a while there, it looked like Adelaide were going to be still in pole position despite losing a qualifying final. So North Melbourne were the top-ranked side who won on the weekend. So they're now in that number 1 position. So should they win in their preliminary final in a couple of weeks' time, it'll be a grand final at Icon Park, the first in Victoria since 2018.
Does that all make sense to you, Bonnie?
I was trying to keep up, yes.
It's all on the AFLW website,
Okay,
if you need a blow-by-blow.
All right, well, let's focus in on the Roos, who are currently the number 1 seed. And what an emphatic victory that was, Bonnie, because a 41-point victory against the reigning premier in Melbourne. It had been 1,723 days since the Roos last beat the D's. All the talk in the lead-up was about their poor record. They had a point to prove. They did it. Where do you rank them in terms of premiership contenders?
I think last time I was on this show, we spoke about they were coming up against Adelaide, and it was almost like a monkey off the back.
Yeah.
And this win was definitely a monkey off the back. How they attacked this game and the pressure they brought to Melbourne's midfield in particular was impressive and really smart coaching, and then amazing by the players to then implement. But I think they could go all the way.
Ooh. What about you, Sarah? Because Emma Carney did say during the week that previously, and they wouldn't have said this publicly, but it was very much between the ears, and now it's like the shackles are off. Can they win the whole thing?
I think they can. It was the question coming into the season, and I think we're all under the, not assumption, but we feel like, once they had that breakthrough victory, they'll carry that confidence forward. So the tackle pressure was huge. That could have been the missing piece of the puzzle for them. So they now know they can do it. They know they can produce that 4-quarter effort. We'll see how they go in the prelim.
So you talk about that tackle pressure, but 104 tackles is immense. Jazz Garner had 12 of those as well. I was there at halftime. I'm thinking, can they maintain the rage? How difficult is it, Bonnie, to continue to pile on the pressure like they did and maintain that for 4 quarters of footy?
When you know it's working, and when Melbourne weren't able to put scoreboard pressure on themselves, that just fills your side with confidence. You go, okay, this tackle pressure, it's been a real intention by us, it's working, and you kind of just start riding that momentum and you do it more and more and more. That's why we saw the numbers just keep climbing.
Just on Melbourne, I mean, the number 1 attack in the competition. They go into this game with Zanka and Hoare as the leading goal kickers in the competition. Didn't fire a shot when it came to attack. And if we look at their last 6 quarters of football, they have only scored 1 goal. Where is it all going wrong, Sarah? Can you pinpoint it?
Some of it is the mid-forward connection. They've clearly played Brisbane and North Melbourne, who are 2 excellent sides. And both teams have really taken it up to Melbourne's midfield and stopping that run on the outside, stopping that forward handball. So they haven't been able to generate that drive through the middle. And then I think that a little bit of panic creeps in. It's not going as well as expected, and how do we turn things around? So, hopefully for Melbourne fans' sake, they haven't been found out. They're too talented to have been found out. I'm looking to see how they rebound on the weekend.
If you're Geelong, though, do you feel like Melbourne are actually vulnerable now? They can be beaten?
Absolutely. I think North Melbourne provided a bit of a blueprint on the weekend. Melbourne's midfielders couldn't find enough time and space to be able to pinpoint and hit up their forwards. So a lot of the entries were either dump kicks, and that's where defenders, they're licking their lips. They're like, great, I know where my oppo is. I'm going to just read where the ball comes in and go in and intercept.
Now, there has been a little bit of talk about the health of the D's, of course, leading into that round 10 clash with Brisbane. An illness tore through the club, and whether or not there were some lingering effects, well, that question was put towards Melbourne midfielder Tyler Hanks in a press conference on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think there has been some illness. So that's sort of been in our program, but everyone that's played has been fit and available, and I think if you put your hand up to play, then you were fit and ready to go. So I don't think, as much as it's been there, it's no excuse for our performance, and everyone that was on the park was fit and available to play the best they could. So, yeah, we can't sort of use that as any excuse.
Straight bat.
She's very
She
professional.
was never going to say anything else, though. You don't use it as an excuse. All right. So North Melbourne will, of course, face the winner of the game between Adelaide and Sydney. That semi-final I'm very much looking forward to. And how about those Swans, Sarah, getting the job done over the Suns? That is why Sarah Ollie is not with us today, because she's still too busy rewatching that final.
Yeah, the good times keep rolling at the Swans, but it's built on the back of hard work. And, you know, not just hard work, but some composure and some belief, I think, really, that has generated over this season. I came into this game, I watched the replay, I didn't watch it live, and immediately, so I knew the result, but I was immediately struck by just how much pressure they threw at the Suns.
So winless in their first season, Bonnie, and then they win a final. Did you expect this kind of rise from them this year? And you can see here what it means, not just to the players in the AFLW team, but also to the men's program, because they're very close and connected, that group.
And that's what it looks like, a really connected club, and that helps with on-field performance as well. When you feel like you belong in an environment, you're able to perform at a high level. But I didn't necessarily expect this result by Sydney, considering a winless season last year. However, knowing and hearing great things about Scotty Gowans, that it's also not surprising that there's been such a quick improvement, and particularly too, the lead into last season was very difficult for expansion sides. So to have an extra year of development, the girls connecting with one another, the coaching staff coming together more, it was always going to be a quick improvement by the Swans.
Plenty of talent too on this Sydney Swans list. It's hard to go past Chloe Molloy and 2468. Who do we appreciate? It's Chloe, and we appreciate the fact that she had such a quick, witty comeback after a Suns fan sledged her with 2468. You can't kick straight. I like this little bit of sass, and that's what she brings to the game, doesn't she, Bonnie? She has fun with it.
She does have fun with it, and that was very witty. Well done, Chloe, there. She's such a fantastic player. She doesn't need to touch the ball too many times to have a real impact on games.
It's sort of a brave fan who would poke Molloy too.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that's the right thing to do.
I'm just impressed that she got 2468. The coordination with the fingers. Like, do you think you'd actually be able to do that in the moment? You kick a goal and...
No.
I'd be too busy counting
all I can
fingers.
do is just, like, you know, the two fist bumps, and that's about it. It's as advanced
a double cobra, and that is it.
You have to coordinate both arms, but not the fingers. Yeah.
Well, her coach in Scott Gowans might be just a teeny bit biased, but he was full of praise for Chloe Molloy after the game.
Well, I've always said she's the best female football I've ever seen, and I'll stick by it. I think she's got the ability to take the game by the scruff of the neck when it needs to. She's got the footy IQ to put herself behind the ball, in the middle, forward, and then she's also very, very hard to tag. And she doesn't have to get, and I keep saying, she doesn't have to get 35 possessions to influence a game. If she gets 15 to 20 possessions, she's usually going to be damaging, and that's why I rate her so highly.
Do you have her rated as the best player in the competition, you two?
Oh,
I'm going to put both of you on the spot.
Scotty Gowans loves Chloe Molloy and has done since the Diamond Creek days, so I understand where he's coming from. For me, on sheer consistency, hard to go past Jazz Garner.
It's hard to go past Jazz, but Chloe's definitely up there in the top five. Her impact on games is so crucial for the Swans, and Scotty mentioned her footy IQ, and she's just able to get herself in spots and almost be ahead of the game before it's there.
I think we're all fans of Chloe Molloy. It's safe to say. Time now for our NAB Unsung Hero. And while Chloe and some of the other big name Swans tend to get all the plaudits, we need to shout out Irish woman Tanya Kennedy, Sarah, because she shut down Suns midfielder Claudia Whitford, but also had 22 touches of her own, if you don't mind.
An absolute steal has Kennedy been this year. She was one of the last players added to the list, injury replacement. She's been playing local footy AFL Sydney competition, and she's come in and had a huge impact in the midfield. She's such a defensive asset to have. But like you said, Nat, she can win her own footy. So, Bonnie, I wanted to ask you, do you walk a bit taller with a player like Tanya Kennedy in your lineup? She was given the task on Claudia Whitford, but she was such a presence around the contest.
Such a presence in her physicality, and she provided so much pressure. She was in Claudia Whitford's back pocket all day. But then what was even more impressive is that she was so attacking herself. She beat the Suns at their own game with her running capacity. She's quick, she's fit, and was able to be an impact for them going forward as well.
So the Swans now face Adelaide, and it's the first time these two sides will play each other. Of course, Sydney only been in the competition for 2 seasons now. Adelaide going down to the Brisbane Lions in that qualifying final just narrowly. It was so close, and Bonnie, they had their chances to win the game in the last quarter, but they couldn't convert in front of goals, and they're going to have to clean that area of their game up, aren't they, against the Sydney Swans?
They will, because Sydney put a lot of pressure on Gold Coast, but they also play a controlled but quick style of footy, so they're going to be on their game. But yeah, they did. They missed their opportunities, but Brisbane had a really good setup. They wanted to shut the game down. They put Dakota Davidson behind the ball to just keep flooding their forward line. So any shot they did have was under extreme pressure, and Brisbane got the job done in the end.
Do you give the Swans a chance, Sarah?
It's hard to know without any exposed form. As you said, the first time they've played each other. I just think the maturity of Adelaide's going to be too much here. They're just deeper all around the park, and they know how to win finals despite having lost one on the weekend.
We're not writing off Adelaide by any means, because to put it in perspective, they've only lost to one team this season, and that is the Brisbane Lions by a combination of 5 total points. They're still probably the premiership favourites, even though they've now lost the chance to host a grand final. But I still think they're going to rebound, and I wouldn't want to be the Swans.
No, not at all. We've seen Chelsea Randall on screen. I don't think she's going to let them go out in straight sets, Bonnie. And just that depth of midfield, like I said, you've got Ebony Marinoff and Hatchard in there. We love Laura Gardner, but the Swans are going to need some support around there. And if Montana Ham gets moved forward in the absence of Becky Fratelli, it's going to be tricky for the Swans.
Having finals experience is so important, and Adelaide's filled with it. You learn more from your losses, so this may actually set Adelaide up to be even more successful and make it to the grand final, because there's areas of their game that got highlighted, and they need to go to work and fix them for this week.
Either way, it's been a terrific season so far for the Swans. That game, that semi-final, Saturday night. Cannot wait for that one. Of course, you can stream it live on afl.com.au/AFLW or the AFLW Live app. So the other semi-final, though, is Melbourne and Geelong. We'll get to that game in just a moment, but Bonnie, we'll take this opportunity to touch on the Bombers. Your finals in your second season in the competition. It didn't go the way that you'd hoped against the Cats on the weekend, but how do you reflect on the entirety of this season?
Oh, with such pride. We were having chats throughout the week, like, we've made finals, yes, let's acknowledge and celebrate that. But we did want to win, and we went out being like, we're going to win this game of football. We probably let us down, in particular the first 6 minutes of that game. So
were you nervous?
Yeah, of course. I think the team was nervous, but I honestly thought that we were in a really focused mindset, and I was really excited for us to get out there and get going, because I was like, I think we're in a good frame of mind. But Geelong came out and really with a point to prove, and really exploited us on some transition things, and in that first 6 minutes, almost like if we could take that back and be able to bring what we brought in the last 2 terms into that first 6 minutes, could have been different. So they're all the thoughts that go through your head. But Geelong played a terrific game, and I'm glad with how we finished in the end.
Like you said, I'm sure you're just full of pride. I was going to say proudness. That's not a word. Full of pride for your girls and how they've performed this year. But on the siren, I'm sure there was a whole lot of emotions for you.
There was a lot of emotions. I was proud in that moment, and I felt we needed to show that with our body language to our fans, because it's like what we were able to achieve this season, and the improvement that we've made as a team has been really good. In the rooms, obviously that's when the emotion comes out a little bit more, because we did lose a game of football that we wanted to win, and a lot of emotion gets built up in that moment. So I did shed a little tear at the end. However, still just overwhelming pride for what we were able to do this season.
And when it comes to the competitive Pressparkers sisters, it was another win to Georgie, Sarah, and I reckon, Bonnie, that would eat away at Maddie a little bit because she is a fierce competitor.
Yes, Mads is the fiercest of them all.
Even though they hugged there, which was sweet. I'm sure she didn't want to at the time.
Oh, yeah, I've got to hug you, don't I? Oh.
One thing that I've learned about the press box is that families, that they've got so much love for each other. Yes, they're competitors on the field, but as soon as that final siren goes, there's just love and support. And I'm sure Mads will be down there on Sunday afternoon supporting Georgie. So, fierce competitor, but when it comes to family, it's all love.
We've spoken about the Ds, but I absolutely want to touch on the Cats because I love the way that they've gone about it during patches of this season, and it was a good win for them at the weekend. But the loss of Chloe Shear, Sarah, and that fractured collarbone, it's a big blow.
It really is. There's a double collision there, poor thing. She's a point of difference down there. I know Ash Maloney plays in her own unique style, but Chloe can just turn the game on its head in an instant. The Cats will have Kate Darby coming back from suspension, but they've used her primarily as ruck support this year. Whether they re-employ her in a full-time forward role, they stick with Mel Bragg, who'd come in for Darby in the first place, or bring in something like Gabby Featherston. They've got a few options there, but it's going to hurt.
All right, so Bonnie has made her way over to Gemma for the deep dive, and we're sticking with the theme of the Cats because certainly one Cat that has made a huge impact in her debut season in the AFLW is Ash Maloney. And Gemma, what a remarkable story she is.
Yes, Nat. Aisling Maloney was a game breaker on the weekend against Bonnie's Bombers. I'm really sorry. But she's adapted to footy so quickly and her footy IQ is so high, isn't it, Bonnie, as this footage is going to tell us?
Considering she's only 11 games into her AFLW journey, her ability to get her players up the ground and then work really hard back. She has such great running capacity, and you can see how she's dragged her opponent up the ground here in this vision, but rips back so quickly just to create a contest. And sometimes, as a forward, that's all you need to do, just halve the play, create a stoppage, and she's got really great ability in doing that.
And her awareness to, if she doesn't impact the play first, she then maintains that run, coming back towards goal. She finds the space here. The kick doesn't quite get to her, but then she's still active around the footy.
Well, she's constantly moving, and as a defender, you want to always reference where the football is and where your opponent is. But once you're moving, getting up and around and moving on your toes, it's really hard to keep that reference and you can get lost.
Now, this one here, she starts up here, goes back towards goal, and then does this hook lead back into the space where she's hit up perfectly. That's not an easy leading pattern to get used to new to the game, is it?
Well, particularly, sometimes it's hard to identify when the space, especially when the oppo is flooding the forward 50. So to be able to identify the space and then move into it and get, 1-2 metres separation, that's all she needs because she's such a great contested marker as well.
And she's so quick as well. Tall, rangy, athletic. She kicked 3 goals against Melbourne when they met back in round 5, and then she kicked 2 against you guys on the weekend. She's also, as you said, such a great contested mark. What is it about contested marking that makes it such an important asset in AFLW?
I think she reads the flight of the ball so quickly, so then she's able to get her footwork and her body in the right position to enable her to complete the craft. She's got that height as well over opponents, and so it's hard if she puts her hands up and out fully stretched, that's really hard to then a defender to come through and spoil.
Yeah, and in a 2-on-1, no worries, just takes the mark. But it just allows them to maintain possession of the footy. And this something, Nat, is something that Melbourne needs to be really aware of coming up against them in a do-or-die final this weekend. Kicked 3 goals against them last time. How many can she kick this week?
Oh, it's a good question that you posed, Gemma. Thanks to Gemma and Bonnie there with the deep dive. Of course, you can catch that semi-final on Sunday afternoon at Icon Park. I'll be there 3:05. Cannot wait for that one. Live stream it, of course, on the AFLW app. Now, before we go, let's take a quick look now at the All-Australian squad, which was released. We won't talk to Sarah Black about this because she was part of the panel. This is the team that she and others have put together, or the squad, I should say, and of course the team will be announced in due course. But Blackburn, Carney and Marinoff are 3 names there, Bonnie, who have been in every single All-Australian squad since the very first season. It's an amazing achievement, isn't it, to be that consistent?
Definitely amazing achievement. The consistency is key. However, they've evolved with the game. So the game has gotten better year on year. And they've been able to evolve with it, which is also really impressive.
Now, there's a familiar face on this graphic too, because you're in the All-Australian squad. Congratulations. How did that feel?
Thank you very much. It's a very proud moment and an honour to be even considered in, you know, that level of calibre of players. So it's amazing. It's really humbling too.
Sarah Black, blink twice if Bonnie's in the team. She's just giving me a greasy now.
Yeah.
But great work.
Don't put me on the spot,
because
Nat.
that is very, very hard to do because you can never please anyone or everyone. So
Well, you can't please anyone, really.
No, you can't. Well, thank you to you both. Bonnie, great as always to see you. Thank you so much for being part of the W Show family. We absolutely love you, especially rocking that pony. So keep up the good work and we'll see you soon. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, of course, to Sarah Black and all of your fine work. Enjoy the footy.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to getting over to Adelaide this week, actually.
You're going to Adelaide.
Yeah.
Oh, enjoy that little junket. And thank you for watching the W Show. Thanks to Nat. We'll see you again, same time, same place next week.